Thank you all for being there, for opening me up in so many different ways and showing me so many different paths. You are all a gift to me and to each other. I am endlessly grateful. Sorry about my voice. It may or may not change over time, but the energy can still be expressed by it. I want to go back to very simple, specific things. I think you need to keep yourselves on mute, if you don't mind. I guess to be very simple, 50 something years ago, my friend Barry Kaplan gave me a dose of LSD. You've all heard this story. And it didn't work. And the day that he gave it to me, strangely enough, was the day that the man who supplied Timothy Leary with his LSD arrived at my house and asked if he could leave a full bottle of LSD in my refrigerator. When the dosage that Barry had given me didn't work, he went to the bottle in the refrigerator, opened it up, took an eyedropper, went to squeeze a drop into my mouth, and squeezed the whole dried eyedropper in. Thousands and thousands of micrograms. The journey that followed changed me forever. I have never, ever forgotten it. It completely disrupted my world. It showed me that the world that we live in is such a small part of something so much greater. Almost like a projection. A manifestation of an unmanifested reality. It was a remarkable place that we live, but it was only a small part, a small drop in a very big ocean. I wanted to learn more about that. And I discovered that there was such a thing as teachings, Indian mysticism, spiritual teachings that talked about all this in the world across the ocean. And so I went off to India and Nepal, lived in a Tibetan monastery, met with Tibetan monks, with Indian gurus, came back to New York, not finding anything, and met Rudy. And Rudy taught me a very simple practice. And that practice was that we all have doorways, entryways into our being. And they're called chakras. And of course, all this was taught in India and Tibet. But Rudy made it clear to me. And he said, if I just sit still and ask for help to surrender and focus on these centers, they will open gradually. And I will go inside and discover what's waiting within. I was already pretty exposed to the world without, but the world within, other than the LSD manifestation, was still very hard to enter. And Rudy said, Bruce, this is a life's work. And I don't know why, but I said, okay. And I began this practice of sitting every day and trying to go into these chakras. I was following the directives of Ask Ganesha, find, seek. I know I get these mixed up. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. Seek and ye shall find. Ask and it shall be delivered. And whether those are the exact words or not, those are really the key ingredients. You need to make an effort. And if you do, the door opens, the answer arrives, and you find what you're looking for. There are 7 primary portals. One at the top of your head, which is usually an escape route for when you leave the body, but information comes in. There's one in your third eye, which is the space of mind, brain, intellect. There's one in your throat, space of ego, me, mine, expression, expressing yourself to the world in one way or another, in full flower or in very limited ways. There's one in your heart, which is the space of love, compassion, empathy, goodness, kindness toward others, toward yourself. One in your belly, which is about intuitive knowing, awareness, navigational clarity, something that goes beyond mind and goes beyond the heart, knows what to do. Sex chakra, reproductive. For many people, it's a constant of wanting and needing and pleasuring yourself, but it's also about recreating life outside you and recreating yourself. And then lastly, the base of the spine, which is sort of an integrative powerhouse of energy, which can move up the spine to the top of your head and then down. And when it goes down, it begins to link all of these different centers into a whole, so they flow. Now I know you all know this, but what I find so fascinating in looking at people is how malformed we are. How some of us have such brilliant intellect and so little heart and emotion. How some of us have an ability to express ourselves and feel, but we don't get the understanding of the world, just the feeling of the world. Those of us who have profound intuitive awareness, which makes for great athletes, great adventurers, great surfers. Knowing how to surf the world comes from your belly. Knowing how to make the right turn at the right time is really important. The left turn, to jump and leap for something you really want. The sex chakra, which drives us so dramatically throughout our whole lives until you get to my age, and then it starts to have less power, but it's still there. And what it's doing is recreating us over and over and over if we let it. So we don't just spill it out into the world. We find that incredible powerhouse of passion and joy making us into new people over and over and over until we no longer know who we were. We just know we have been reborn and reborn and reborn. And this keeps happening. And the extraordinary thing is so many people find one of these chakras and put all of their energy into it. And they think they have the answer. But the answer doesn't come from a single chakra. It comes from the alignment of all of these centers. And if you are not strong in each center, you will not allow yourself to know the truth of your being. You will stay in the comfort zone as long as you can. A lot of us have comfort zones. A lot of us get very smug about that comfort zone. And some of us have no comfort zones. We haven't stepped 1 inch into this space. We're always living out there, finding our comfort zones in sex, in food, in friendship, in reading good books, in television, in distraction. We get so much from the outer world until the time comes to leave the outer world and you have no clue where you're going to go. Well, I'll tell you where you're going to go. You're going inside. You're going within and then beyond. It's an amazing journey. And I have to tell you, the deeper you go, the less there is of you as a personality, as a historical being, as a narrative story, as anything. It starts to just wash away. And you discover, as I've been talking about a lot recently, that this key teaching of Rudy's is, please help me to surrender. Surrender what? And again, I'm going to get really, really simplistic here. But surrender your reaction to anything. Because you are a reactive being, and you have been since you were born. And I watch my grandchildren who are now becoming so defined and contextualized by their reactions that they are no longer these free-form open entities they were just years ago. They are already locked into form, and this is who I am. This is what I want. This is what I like. This is what I don't like. This is what annoys me. Don't talk to me like that. Go away. Don't bother me. All of that stuff starts to form, and you can't believe how much energy you give that until you are locked into you. And it's not comfortable. You may think it is because you've locked the world out. You've told everybody, I don't want it that way. I don't want it this way. This is how I'll take it. That's all I am. I am this limited series of choices. And all I can say to you is they are trapping you into an absurdity of resistance to what is. What is all there is. And if you define yourself against it, you won't begin to touch the reality of your life. You will view it from within this very confined, very determined, very isolated space. And it's painful. And as you get older, it's going to get more painful and more painful. And so the teaching is take a breath, enter anywhere you can get in. I think the easiest spot is the heart, through feeling. Not true for everybody, but it's a great doorway. Sit at that door and ask for it to open. The stupid secret of all this is that it is open. It has never been locked. You can sit and ask for it to open forever. You can knock. But really, all you have to do is turn the handle. You don't even have to do that. You can just push it open. It's so waiting for you to come in. It so cares about you. It's so the essence of you. It's the part of you that is part of that amazing thing I witnessed on LSD 50 years ago. It's all in there. And if you can get in through your heart, you can then begin to get in through your mind, through your gut, through this rebirthing space. And your ego can begin to talk to it directly and express it directly. And it becomes a form of dialogue with the world, artistic expression, a way of offering your insight into the world, and a way for that to come into you. What I look for when I teach is how open are all of your centers. And of course, at any given moment, it varies. But it's very clear to me after all of these years of sitting here what's open and what's not, and what I need to do, which is like scratch my nose. Thank you. What I know when I sit with you is that some of you are very surrendered and very open. And I feel that. And this energy that's coming from you, which is very now aligned and very forceful and very clear. And trust me, it has nothing to do with Bruce, other than the fact that Bruce offers its body and mind and heart and gut and its sexuality and its availability to it. And it goes into you and it looks for what can it do to help? How can it find those little spaces in you that are resisting, that are still limiting you and defining you in your inability to go beyond the you that you know? This is the work. Open as deeply as you can to your reactivity and then watch it. Watch what reacts. Watch the voice that says, God, this is boring. Watch when that happens. When that happens, you're checking out. Watch what happens when you think, oh God, I've heard this a million times. That's a reaction. If you let that go, the fact that you've heard it a million times will not affect you. It will actually put down a barrier and let it go through so you can be touched in a whole new way. What is the barrier that says, God, I would much rather be watching TV? What is the barrier that says, enough, enough? Do not listen to that. Ask at that point for help to surrender and watch what happens. And I can tell you what happens because I have done this over and over. What happens is the barrier falls down and the expansion shocks you. Like, oh, oh, oh. As I described last week, what is occurring for me right now is that I am no longer lowering the barriers or dealing with my reactivity. It's doing it all by itself. I have nothing to do with it. And it's an amazing discovery because we can all get there. The me that was reacting is being so washed away, so cut apart, so dissected and thrown away. And as I described last week, that enormous experience of pain 2 months ago was so excruciating and awful. It was impossible to know as it was happening that it was ripping the last shreds of Bruce apart. The broken heart that opens. It takes it away. We have to expose ourselves to life. We have to live life. And we have to let everything come up. And then we have to go, yes. We have to allow. We have to surrender. We have to accept. We have to get out of the way over and over and over until there is no you to do it. And when that happens, you will have arrived at something called liberation, awakening, enlightenment. As I described last week, 10 years ago this month, that happened to me, and I thought I was done. And as I said last week, it took me 10 more years for it to flourish. It's not a single act, and I in no way feel that I am done. But I wake up every day in a state of such profound gratitude. I look at my wife and I go, how did I get this lucky? How did I get to share this life with somebody who's been so kind and so good and so available and such a good cook, such a good mother, and such a good wife? How did that happen? How did I find myself right here in this spot? And I look at it as blessing upon blessing. And all the reactivity that I have now in the world is gratitude. It's just thank you. All day long. I go for these walks. I think I said this last week too. I go for these walks and I talk out loud and I say thank you. Thank you for the beauty of this. Thank you for the glory of this space, this autumnal beauty. Thank you for feeling all this love. Thank you for nurturing this. And what I'm feeling is like I'm on LSD. Like I'm back 50 years ago. And it's finally opening. And I'm no longer living just this bodily bruised personality. I'm just living. I'm not even living. I am life itself. And I know how absurd that sounds and how haughty. But the only way I can diminish it in its haughtiness is to tell you, you are the exact same thing. You are life itself. Trust me on that. And if you don't feel that, it's because you're resisting. You are reacting to the stuff you don't like, or just seeking out the stuff you do like. Life is going to bring you both. Open, open, open. Surrender, surrender, surrender. Say thank you. Find your gratitude. Feel your love. Let it happen. If the person next to you annoys you, what a gift. Because you can look at that and go, that's reactivity. That annoyance is reactivity. And the minute it happens, you just surrender. And it doesn't build into a confrontation or a thing. You just were given a gift to let go of a part of you. You will have honest reactions to things in the world, but you will discover that it's not you reacting. It's life itself reacting to itself. And what you begin to discover is how life loves certain things, like truth, like beauty, like openness, like love. Life really loves that stuff. Life does not like selfishness, egotism, evil, mean-spiritedness, war, struggle. It doesn't really like it. And so it will express itself at it. And when you see people in soulful mode saying this is wrong, or in angry mode saying, don't do that, it's not coming from the person, it's coming from the soul, the psyche, the vastness of life itself. Life is full of love and wonder and awe and beauty. And this is where it's going to get boring because I'm going to say it every week. At the core, nothing is there. Nothing. Sorry. Nothing. No, nothing good, nothing bad. Nothing. It is emptiness itself, nothingness itself. And yet, everything comes from that. I can say that 100 million times, and you'll go, yeah, interesting. You'll try to penetrate here. It'll try to get in. When it gets in, when you allow it to touch you, when you allow yourself to know it, it will change everything. The only problem, and trust me, I know it's a problem, is that it will get rid of the you that knows it. And if you're scared of letting go of you, it'll just kill you in the end. And you deal with it at that point. You know? But you might as well do it now. For one reason. Just trust me on this. It's so wonderful. It's so wonderful. So beyond wonderful. Why not let go? Get rid of all those things that reject and resist and just be. Just be. I don't know how more to say that to you. My job, assuming I have one, assuming anybody shows up, is to help you get rid of those reactivities that are still in play. I can do that. I don't know why I can do that. Rudy could do that. Those who teach Rudy's work have a certain facility with that. But it really helps to finally get rid of the you that's doing it and let it do it. That's really what we're aiming for. Even the great teachers, as long as they have a sense that their teaching are still in some way a limitation. Not a bad one, but a limitation. What's wanted, I think, is just go. Thy will be done. And it will be done. It will happen. And each of you can do that. This is not exactly hard. I mean, maybe it is. It's a life's work. It's practice. Just watch yourself reacting to all this stupid little stuff or the big stuff, because we're surrounded right now by big stuff with big reactions. Let it go. This ancient line, God's in his heaven and all's well with the world. Those of you who don't believe in God, okay, you can dismiss that as a line. But let me just tell you, there is something at work that is so much bigger than anything we understand. It knows what it's doing. It will be there for us if we are there for it. And if we misbehave, if we give ourselves over to profound egotism, to darkness, to evil, to carrying guns and shooting people and stuff like that, it doesn't like that. It's part of the whole, but it doesn't like it. And it will let you know that when the time comes. So one of the reasons people preach love and kindness and goodness and all of that is because you find yourself on the side of right, not in an ego way, but in a sense of the awe of the truth of it. It just shines through. There's no ownership. There's no you saying, look how good I am. Look how perfect I am. Look how kind I am. You become like the Dalai Lama. You just become someone who smiles a lot and who laughs a lot and who understands this stuff and who understands how to bring it down into the simplest of teachings. It ain't rocket science, trust me. It's so simple, but you have to do it. And you have to commit to doing it. And if you do, and you do the work, I promise you, signed, sealed, and delivered, you will find a level of joy and amazement and awe and gratitude and love and comfort and security and goodness and kindness and everything you have ever wanted already there. That's what I promise you. Again, This isn't Bruce talking. Just trust, trust, trust. Do the work. Go inside, ask for help, and watch what happens. I could talk forever. I know you know that. So I'm going to stop. If you want to unmute and any of you have questions, I'm happy to try to answer them. And if not, I'll see some of you next week in the New York class. And I'll be back in LA in, I guess, 4 weeks. If you have any questions, either raise your hand or just unmute. I assume that's no. I really, really thank you guys for being here. It's important that you show up. It's important that you show up, not just to me, not just for class. It's really important. So thanks for coming. See you when I see you. Please stay well. So much love to all of you, truly.
Thank you, Bruce.
Really
Thank you,
love.
Bruce.